Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Wild Rift video. And in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys a tier list for every single role in the game. And now that I'm making tier list videos like once every month instead of once every 1.5 weeks, so many things change between the tier lists. Like every single champion pretty much changes either directly or indirectly, because new items get released, the game changes and everything like that. So there's timestamps in the description if you just want to skip to the tier list. Now let me get to it. First of all, the Baron lane tier list, and Gragas is sitting on top because like you can play whatever with Gragas. You can go tank Gragas, you can go mix Gragas, you can go full AP Gragas, and the funny thing is every single one of them is S+ tier. So like you can pick your build accordingly to the game, and every single build works like crazy. The blue Gragas build which I made a video of very recently, full AP Gragas, as I said, everything. Next up is Gwen. And you may be thinking, but Gwen got nerfed. Her third ability got nerfed like crazy. No, Gwen Jungle got nerfed. Baron lane Gwen did not get nerfed. Like, Baron lane Gwen is essentially the same. And it's S+ tier. Like, S+ tier easily. It's so broken. Like, all you need to do is get to the later stages of the game. Like, get to the late game and don't feed too much. And in the late game, you're gonna win every 1v1. And during teamfights, you're gonna carry teamfights. She's crazy in the later stages of the game. Next up is Aatrox. And Aatrox used to be like by far the like S++ tier. But they actually gave him a pretty substantial nerf. Now, I'm not saying the nerf really hurt him hard. It just hit him. Like, he's not utterly broken anymore. He's just normal broken right now. On the same level as Gragas and Gwen. That should already tell you how good Aatrox is right now. Like, insanely good. Basically, he's insanely good. The lifesteal he gets is absolutely crazy. Like, it feels like anti-heal really doesn't do anything against this champion. It's crazy. Next up is Fiora. And the thing about Fiora is you really have to know how to play her. Like, this is one of those champions. She's not easy like Gragas, right? Because Gragas is so easy to play. Gwen is also not the hardest champion to play. But Fiora is hard. Like, if you're good on Fiora, she's S+ tier. She's absolutely incredible if you're good at her. I made a video on her very recently, and I have a lot of videos on Fiora if you haven't watched them already. I really recommend you to watch them if you want to get into Fiora, because you really have to know how to do her ultimate combos. You really have to know all the ins and outs of Fiora, basically. Next up is Sett. Sett is also a bit of an easier champion. Very powerful. Like, in the early game, he's decently strong at 1v1s. He can very easily deal with burst damage with his second ability, right? And in the late game, if you're up against a tank, he can also very easily abuse that. He can use his ultimate on the tank, push it into the enemy team, slow everyone, do a crazy amount of damage. Like, that's the whole power of Sett, right? Like, he just has such a good kit. It fits really well into Wild Rift. Next up is Renekton. This is a champion that I really don't like, personally. I also don't really think he's that strong. But like, I'm seeing other people have quite a lot of success on Renekton. You know what? Like, this is my opinion, so I'm gonna put him here. Like, even though I see a lot of people have success on him, I really don't think he's that strong. Like, I just think he's top S tier. He's not S+ tier in my opinion, because like, in the early game, sure, he's strong, right? Like, in the early game, he will destroy everyone. But once you reach the mid game, late game, he really doesn't become that strong anymore. The only thing he's good at in the later stage of the game is 1v1s. But even those 1v1s, he's really not that strong at. And besides that, he's gonna be tanky. Sure, whatever, he's tanky. What does that really do? Not that much, right? Because there's other champions that are much tankier than him. So that's why I just really don't think he's that good. Next up is Riven. Riven is incredible. She's so powerful right now. In the Baron lane as well. Like, she's pretty strong early on in the game. But then in the mid game, that is when she becomes a powerhouse. When you finish off the Black Cleaver and the Death Dance. And there is actually a new build with Riven, which is Crit Riven. People are starting to go Black Cleaver, Navori Quick Blade, Solari Charge Blade, and it's doing crazy damage as well. That build is basically better if you're snowballing. Like, if you're super ahead in the game, you can choose to go for Navori Quick Blade and then Solari Charge Blade and just absolutely decimate the enemy. Not give them a single chance to come back. Like, that's the whole idea behind it, right? You're gonna destroy the squishies. Next up is Wukong. Wukong is always a safe pick, like always. With that first ability of his, he can always just do fine in the Baron lane. He should never really struggle. He's a very good tank. He can hold his ground in the Baron lane, and during team fights, he's amazing. That's the whole point of Wukong, right? Like, his first ability allows him to hold his ground in lane. You don't necessarily have to win lane. And then, of course, when you get ganked, you can use your ultimate to either escape, or when your teammate ganks, you can, of course, get a kill with that ultimate of his. So, he just has a really solid kit to play in the Baron lane. Next up is Garen, and the fact that Garen is S+ tier really is stupid to me, because Garen is not supposed to be S+ tier. This is a brain dead champion. Literally the easiest champion to play out of every single champion here in the list, but he's in the S plus tier. In my opinion, that's stupid. Like, in my opinion, he should just be nerfed. Like, nerfed even harder than he got nerfed. Because he's still way too good. Like, the fact that his ultimate does 40% missing health in the late game, that already tells me, like, that's way too much. That's way too much. Way, way, way too much. Like, that's not supposed to be how Garen works. Like, you can be completely useless as a Garen, but then in the late game, all you have to do is just ult one target that is on a low amount of HP, and you've provided yourself to be incredibly useful. Like, that's the stupid thing about Garen, but yeah, it is what it is, S plus tier. Next up is Irelia. And Irelia is super strong. Like, she's super, super strong. But you have to be able to hit her stuff. And should I spoil it already for you guys? I have an Irelia video ready for you guys. I played Irelia myself in a 4 versus 5 game because I had a teammate who was trolling. And I got better than 100% of Irelia players in Challenger rank. Now, I want to tell you guys, this video reaches 1,000 likes. I'm going to bring out that one video tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'll bring out that video. If you want to see it, make sure you give it a like. If you don't want to see it, give the video a like as well. That was not smooth at all. But yeah, it is the truth, what I told you guys yesterday. I don't know what happened during that game. It felt like there was like some sort of light shining on me. Like, you know, just a light shining on me like this. Just blessing my Irelia. Wait, what did I do? Blessing my Irelia, I was hitting everything. I played out of my mind. And it truly showed me how strong Irelia was. Because like Irelia is a 1 versus 9 champion. This champion is just crazy. But she's perhaps even harder to play than Fiora. Like, that's the thing with Irelia. You really have to be good on this champion to 1v9. Next up is Yone. Yone is incredibly powerful as well. Not as powerful as before anymore. But definitely sitting in the S tier. Like, definitely S tier. Shen got stronger as well. They buffed his lane clearing. So, you know, besides what he already offered to the game, which was already really, really good, he can now actually split push. Like, it doesn't take him ages to push out the wave. Akali is very powerful as well. With the addition of, what is that item called? What is that item called? I forgot the name of the item. The vampirism item for magic damage. God, what is it called? The magic damage item with vampirism. You know what I mean? Which does true damage as well. Come on, brain! I forgot the name. Whatever. But I think you know what I'm talking about. With the addition of that item, it made Akali way stronger. Like, really, really a lot stronger. And she's, like, the reason that she's not S plus tier in the Baron lane is because she does struggle in the lane matchup against tanks, against bruisers. And of course, everyone in the Baron lane is a bruiser or a tank or something like that, right? So that's why she's S tier. So she won't win lane very easily, and she won't be able to one-shot the enemy in lane. But like, if she skills to the late game, she's gonna destroy everyone. So that makes her S tier. Malphite, you can always pick. You know, he's a stupid rock. You can just throw yourself at the enemy and be useful. His laning is so easy. You just have to use your first ability on the enemy, and you're gonna be trading fine. Like, he's just so easy to play. Next up is Sion. Sion is really strong as well. They nerfed him really hard though. I remember they nerfed his passive, where it gives him less health when he kills off minions. So, and they nerfed him indirectly as well. They nerfed the stones in the jungle. I'm not sure what they're called. You know, the stones that used to turn in a lot of small stones, now only turn into medium stones. So he's not gonna get as many stacks from those stones anymore. So it indirectly nerfed Sion. So he won't be able to get as many stacks from those. And of course, they nerfed his passive. So I'm not saying he's weak. He's still strong, but he's of course not as brokenly strong as he used to be anymore. Olaf Baron lane got a buff because his first ability now shreds armor, which is incredibly powerful in the Baron lane. Because not only does Olaf do true damage, now he's also going to be able to shred the enemy's armor. So besides the true damage, his normal attacks are also going to start to hurt the enemies much, much more. So if you're up against those tanky champions, which you are going to be up against in the Baron lane, you know, Olaf is going to work really, really well in the Baron lane now. He already used to work in the Baron lane, now it's going to be even stronger. Camille, on the other hand, she's obviously not as broken as she used to be. Like, Camille was tragic. It was tragic how broken Camille was. And the problem of Camille was, she was only broken in the right hands. Like, in high elo, she was broken. But in lower elos, she was not broken at all. But now they fixed it. Like, Camille's balanced, in my opinion. She's not weak in the Baron lane. Don't get me wrong. But she's not that strong anymore. Because honestly, the main reason is not even when they removed the true damage, but the nerf to the hook shot, in my opinion, was a worse nerf to Camille. Because now, in the late game, you guys remember how Camille used to just run away from anything with the hook shot? Like, it would just go on a 5-second cooldown, and you could run away from anything. Now it goes on like an 11-12 second cooldown. I'm talking super late game now. Early game, it's like a 16-17 second cooldown, by the way. But like late game, you can't run away anymore. Your mobility is cut in half. So honestly, that is what hurts Camille the most. The late game mobility. Next up is Darius. Darius is solid. You know, Baron Lane Darius is just solid. And now I'm going to go quickly through the champions. Not going to talk about all of them because I don't want this video to be like an hour long or something. Jax is decent, right? Like Jax, they nerfed him a lot. Let me just say that they nerfed him a lot, but he's still good at what he does. He's not broken anymore, but he's still good at split pushing. Anyone I want to talk about? Kill is stronger than you think. Let me just say it like that. Kill is stronger than you think. Nasus got nerfed indirectly as well because they took away the jungle wolves, but it's okay. It doesn't matter that much. Nasus is definitely still playable. You can play Warwick in the Baron lane as well. It's pretty good. Khazad, on the other hand, I really don't recommend anymore. Like the nerf on Khazad that they did, which is I think they nerfed his ultimate and his third ability damage. It hurts him like crazy. Like he really only works against squishies now. Like against bruisers, Khazad cannot do anything. So if you're playing Khazad in the Baron lane, for example, and you're up against a Darius or Gragas or Riven or anything like that, you're just not gonna win the lane. You're not gonna be able to do anything. Like he used to be able to win the lane just because he did so much damage, but not anymore at all. Like he's so unbelievably weak in the Baron lane right now. Singed as well, guys. Like I really don't recommend you to play Singed anymore. It just, with the nerf of Leandris, I just don't recommend Singed anymore. Because the whole reason Singed was good was Rylai's Scepter plus Leandris plus tank. But now Leandris really doesn't do a lot of damage anymore if you don't have a lot of AP. And Rylai's Scepter only gives you like a very little amount of AP, like 70 AP or something. And then the Leandris as well, you're just not gonna do a lot of damage anymore. So Singed is just not that strong anymore, guys. I'm sorry to say to you Singed lovers. Jungle tier list. And this one changed like crazy. So first of all, one thing that hasn't changed, and I should actually give her a star, is this stupid champion right here. Evelynn. Guess what, guys? Wow, Evelynn is the best jungler. Who would have guessed that? Oh, yeah. I know it's stupid. But it is what it is. They nerfed Evelynn multiple times. But it doesn't matter. Like, she's still so broken. Like, the fact that when Evelynn reaches level 5, she gets a free gank. And the fact that Evelynn one-shots any squishy champion in the late game, that should already show you how broken this champion really is. Like, it's ridiculous, honestly. It's absolutely ridiculous how broken Evelynn is in this game right now. Kha'Zix also got nerfed multiple times, but still, when you reach the later stages of the game, absolutely powerful. Early game, he does struggle a little bit more now, because they actually increased the cooldown of his first ability. But in the late game, he's even stronger than before, because they reduced the cooldown of his first ability in the late game by 0.5 seconds. So that's the thing with Kha'Zix, right? And you know what the stupid thing is about Kha'Zix? This nerf doesn't make sense on him, because Kha'Zix can power farm really fast. Even if you're behind in the game, Kha'Zix is one of the fastest jungle takers in the game, in the later stages of the game I'm talking now, right? When you get that isolated first ability, he clears that jungle unbelievably fast. He can also clear away the enemy jungle unbelievably fast. So if you're behind in a game, you can make a comeback very fast. And if you're ahead of the game, you can just clear out the enemy jungle in like just a few seconds, and the enemies cannot make a comeback anymore. So Kha'Zix is good on both ends of the spectrum. Lee Sin is great. Of course, the only thing about Lee Sin that is not great is his own late game carry potential. But it makes sense. Like, I feel like this is a good way of how Lee Sin should be. He shouldn't be able to hard carry late game, right? Because the whole point of Lee Sin is getting your teammates ahead, right? You can gank a lot with Lee Sin and get your teammates ahead. And then in the late game, they're gonna carry your ass, right? Like, that's the point. You're sacrificing your own power for your teammates in the late game. Next up is Riven, and Riven is a bit different. She can take jungle very fast. Her ganking is good, her team fighting is good, and her late game is pretty good. Like, Riven jungle is really good right now. Not sure what happened, but like maybe with the new jungle changes, she became much stronger. Like, much stronger. It feels like Riven is unbelievably powerful in the jungle right now. Wukong I don't really need to talk about Wukong, to be honest. He's strong in the jungle, good ganking, good team fighting, blah blah blah. The same story about Wukong, really. Olaf, um, Olaf got changed. Like, they buffed his first ability, but they nerfed something else. I believe they nerfed. Oh, this is what they nerfed, and I actually forgot about this. He sits right here. They they nerfed his third ability in the jungle. His third ability now only does 50% damage to jungle camps, or to like any types of jungle, you know. And it's gonna reduce his jungle clear. It's gonna make his jungle clear slower. Like, he's definitely gonna have a slower jungle clear. And they did it because his jungle clear was too fast. Like, he was able to clear jungle way too fast. So now he's gonna have a much slower jungle clear, which means he can't farm as fast as he used to be. So it's not gonna be as easy to snowball the game as an Olaf. And Olaf in the very late game is not that strong, right? So this hurts Olaf, but he's still S plus tier. Even though it's bottom S plus tier, still S plus tier. Gragas jungle, I only recommend full AP Gragas in the jungle, because if you go for any other build of Gragas in the jungle, well, you can actually go for Rod of Ages tank. That one is also fine. But any other build, if you just go for tank and no Rod of Ages or anything, you're gonna be clearing the jungle so slowly. So it's just not worth to go for that anymore. But full AP Gragas in the jungle is really strong still, because he clears the jungle so fast. He can clear it so fast. And of course, late game AP Gragas is unbeatable, right? And another champion that can clear the jungle fast is Morgana. Even after the jungle changes, she can still take the big fat brown guy and the blue buff both at the same time, very easily. So she can clear the jungle very fast. Still, it's actually not very easily. You have to do it correctly, but she can still clear the jungle super fast. And of course, late game Morgana is really strong still. Shyvana in the jungle is also great. She can take the jungle super fast. Her ganking is really good as well. Like, the thing about Shyvana is you do a full jungle clear, and then you use your ultimate to gank, right? And it should be a free kill. Like, you can clear your jungle super fast. You give up the two scuttle crabs. Who cares? You're gonna get a gank. You know, you're gonna get a gank right after your jungle already. Actually, that's not possible anymore, because when you do a full jungle clear, you become level 4.5 now, right? Wait a minute. Does that even work anymore? Actually, I'm not sure about that, because they changed the experience you get from the jungle very recently. And I believe now, as a Shyvana, if you do a full jungle clear, you reach level 4.5, not level 5. Is that correct? I think that's correct. Or like, you end up just before level 5. Because I remember playing Amumu and doing a full jungle clear, and I ended up being level 4 plus 75% charge to level 5. You know what? If that is the case, then Shyvana sits here. Because that one thing right there was incredibly powerful about Shyvana, because she used to be able to gank immediately after her full jungle clear and get a free kill, because you use your ultimate and it's so powerful. That's an interesting thing to think about. Next up is Diana in the jungle. Diana is really powerful as well. She clears jungle very fast, and Diana just hard carries in the late game. It's crazy how strong this champion is in the later stage of the game. Even in the mid game, she's just so powerful. She's really strong. And she's the type of champion that can solo carry as well. She doesn't need her teammates. She can just do it herself. Like, that's the beauty of Diana. Really good. Her ultimate is super valuable as well. Just a very solid champion overall. Echo is great in the jungle as well. His jungle clear is pretty good. Even though they nerfed his jungle clear, it's still pretty good. Like, good enough. And of course, if you skill into the late game with Echo, you know, he destroys the enemy like crazy. Xin Zhao, on the other hand, is an early game champion. He can take jungle really fast as well. And his ganking is really strong. His early game team fighting is really powerful as well. So that makes him a very strong jungler. Like, he can actually beat out a Lee Sin in the early game. As in, like, he can fight Lee Sin and win a 1v1 against Lee Sin, believe it or not. Of course, in the later stages of the game, the one good thing about him is his ultimate, right? Like, his ultimate, he can use his ultimate and tank the front line, and then all the ranged enemies are not going to be able to damage him. So if you're up against like a Caitlyn or a Ziggs or something like that, Xin Zhao goes in, uses his ultimate, and Caitlyn and Ziggs are useless because they're never going to be able to damage him. So that's the beauty of Xin Zhao. If you can properly use that ultimate, he's going to be even very useful in the late game. Irelia is also good in the jungle. Her jungle clear is decent, but the thing about Irelia is ganking with Irelia can be a little bit hard. You really need to enter a bush without vision. Like, the thing with Irelia is you have to get so close to the enemy to be able to gank them, because, you know, you have to hit your third ability or you have to hit your ultimate. So you have to be very close, or you have to use your flash to get that gank. So that's the thing with Aurelia. Nunu in the jungle is also pretty good. He's very tanky. His ultimate is great. His ganking is great. He can secure objectives very, very easily with his first ability because it does so much true damage to it. So that's the thing about Nunu. He doesn't actually carry the game. He has a hard time carrying games, but he has very good CC. He's very tanky, has very good ganks, and he has very good securing on objectives. So, he has what it takes to be a jungler. The thing about Vi is she clears jungle, I think, the fastest from any other jungler. I feel like she's the fastest jungle clearer in the game. So she clears jungle super fast. But yet again, you're not going to be level 5 after a full jungle clear. So she won't have that ultimate, which means a free gank. So it's the same as Shyvana. She won't get that free gank. But the thing about Vi is, for some reason, she feels very strong in the late game now, as well as, early and mid game. Vi already was pretty strong early and mid game because she's really good at 1v1s. She has good ganking, single target. But normally a single target damage champion is not that good in the late game. But she is. The thing about Vi is, her second ability has a really low cooldown. So in the later stages of the game, you just keep fighting, which gives you stacks on the second ability, and you keep getting that massive shield. And the shield also gives movement speed. So she has infinite movement speed in the late game. And the shielding is crazy. Every time she keeps getting a shield. And she shreds everyone's armor. Whoever she's going on, she will shred its armor. So even if an enemy tank goes in, you will be able to shred that tank's armor and your team can destroy that tank. So that's the thing about Vi. So if you're up against a Rammus, for example, who's the next champion, Rammus goes in with his ultimate. Vi can just do 3 attacks on the Rammus and then your team should be able to take care of the Rammus because he's going to be losing a lot of armor, especially if you get a Black Cleaver as well on Vi. You're essentially going to cut his armor in half. Passive plus Black Cleaver, that's going to shred the armor of any tank. And Rammus is very powerful as well. His jungle clear is not the best. It's good enough, but his ganking is the beauty of Rammus. And you don't even need level 5 for Rammus to gank. You can even gank on level 2. That's the thing about Rammus. You can even gank on level 2 if you really have to. So Rammus has, he's so fast. And the beauty of this champion is, even if the enemy has vision in the bush, you can still gank as a Rammus because of how fast you are. Basically, when the enemy sees you, it's already too late. Because you're already going to be able to reach them because you're so fast. Especially when you get that ultimate of his, right? So enemies cannot escape Rammus's ganks. They just have to flash away instantly. And even if they flash, maybe they're not able to escape. Because you can just ult on top of them anyways. This champion is amazing. Shen jungle. Now, this is a champion I want to talk about, guys. Shen jungle has never been viable up until now. You can actually take jungle so fast with Shen now. So fast. His jungle clear is absolutely incredible. With that first ability of his, takes the jungle so fast. It's surprising. And of course, I actually recommend you to play Shen with... Oops. I actually recommend you to play Shen when you're playing duo queue with someone. So for example, you play duo queue with your Baron laner, and your Baron laner goes Riven, or your Baron laner goes, Wukong, or your Baron laner goes Olaf, your Baron laner goes Aatrox. The type of champion, or Irelia, for example, the type of champion that can 1v9. Because what's going to happen is if you're duo queue with that player, and that player is good on the champion, of course, you can actually communicate with each other. He says, hey, I'm going to go in, and boom, you follow up with an ultimate on Shen. And both of you are going to go in, and both of you are going to do crazy damage. One thing you have to be careful of when you play Shen is Serpent's Fang. You can't 100% rely on this combo that I just talked about right now. It's really strong, but the enemies could get Serpent Fang and cut down your shielding by an insane amount, right? But it works. Jungle Shen works. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. It definitely works. Jungle Fiora is great as well. And Jungle Warwick got buffed recently. They made his ultimate much easier to hit. But he's really not that strong. Warwick is just a low elo champion. Garen should also be a low elo champion. But Garen isn't. But Warwick is just a low elo champion. In high elo, he just doesn't work that well. Because if he ults you can just QSS it. And besides that, he's really not that useful. So he's just not that strong, to be honest, Warwick right now. Just doesn't really fit the high elo meta too well. Mundo Jungle is stronger than you think. I pretty much say this in every tier list. Mundo Jungle is stronger than you think. His jungle clear is decent. But his tankiness and also his early game ganking, believe it or not, is surprisingly decent. You have to make sure, of course, that the enemies cannot see you when you play Mundo. But if you are able to gank, you can hit them with that first ability, which slows them. And it should already be enough for you to get that kill. The slow is just really, really big. and it chunks them down from high amount of HP to lower amount of HP as well. So it does bonus damage equal to the enemy's current health. So that's why like it can really chunk down enemies and allow you and the mid laner or the baron laner or whatever to get that kill very, very easily. Camille jungle, as I said, you know, she did get nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, but she's still decent. She's still decent. Like, again, the mobility hurts her, the true damage hurts her, everything hurts her, but she's still decent. Nautilus jungle is stronger than you think because his jungle clear is surprisingly strong. The only thing about Nautilus jungle is he's really weak early game. You have to power farm. Essentially, you just have to do nothing because even ganking is hard. Like, you have to be able to hit your first ability because only up until you get your ultimate, that's when you can actually start ganking properly with Nautilus. And even then, you're really not strong. Like, you're really not that strong. The only moment Nautilus starts to get strong is in the late game. Like, you need items. You need 2 items or so, or like at least 1.5 items for you to be strong. You know, you need items on this champion for him to be strong. As a jungler, I'm talking jungle right now. Another champion that needs items is Master Yi. But this is such a stupid champion. I mean, Master Yi jungle really is not that strong because he struggles against CC and burst damage. But if the enemy doesn't have those things, you can roll them over. Like, you can absolutely roll over the enemies with Master Yi. Especially if you reach the late game, his damage is just undisputed. It's crazy. Rengar jungle is great. You know, his assassination is great. He can one-shot enemies in the late game. It's just nice. Let's just say it like that. Amumu jungle is a bit underrated as well, but really not that great. A champion or a jungler that absolutely sucks now. This one right here. Gwen jungle. Gwen jungle is a bit of a sad story because they nerfed Gwen only in the jungle. You know, the third ability, it now hops on a massive cooldown. But now, when you hit jungle camps, it doesn't actually reduce the cooldown anymore. So you cannot use the bonus attack speed and the bonus damage of the third ability all the time anymore. Which makes her jungle clear so much slower. So much slower. So she's not going to be able to farm properly in the jungle anymore. It's just not worth to play Gwen in the jungle anymore. Alright. Next up is the mid lane. And interestingly, Vex is still the best mid lane in my opinion. Because just that ultimate of her is so good in the later, in the mid-late game. The ultimate is disgusting. You go on the enemy, even in the early game, the moment you get that ultimate, it's disgusting. Because you can dive the enemy backline so easily. You just have to hit that ultimate, and you're going to be able to dive their backline. Her laning phase is also very, very easy. Because of the third ability, right? You can just hit it on the enemy, poke them very easily, and fear them away all the time. And another good thing about Vex is you can't really dive a Vex easily. Because Vex is just going to fear you away with her second ability. It just fears everyone around her away and she can run away very easily. So that's the thing about Vex. And she also has the barrier on her second ability. So she really has all the tools that she needs. She's such an amazing assassin. Really, really powerful. And another assassin that is amazing is Akali. In the mid lane, it's much easier to play Akali than in the baron lane. Because she can win lane early game against a squishy champion. If you hit the third ability on that enemy, you're gonna do a crazy amount of damage. And of course, the second ability as well to make her pretty much invisible. Like, she's so strong in the early game, as well as, of course, the late game. We all know how strong Akali is in the late game. But in the early game, she's also very, very powerful. So you can play her in the mid lane very, very easily and just win lane and carry the late game. Her ganking is also really good. And she can push waves very fast. So what else do you need from a champion? Well, next up we got Aurelia, guys. And Aurelia in the mid lane is probably the strongest lane for Aurelia. Because, again, she's so good into squishies. The one thing is, it's going to be a little bit harder to hit your third ability on squishies. Because, you know, the squishies are going to be ranged. And they're going to be a little bit harder to reach. But if you can properly play Aurelia, properly combo her stuff, you're still going to be able to hit them. Like, there are tricks. Again, I have a video already, potentially tomorrow, maybe, depends. But there are tricks. Next up is another assassin. That's right, it's Katarina. The assassins are really taking over mid lane. And it just feels like assassins are way too powerful right now in the mid lane. Like, it's just so good. Diana in the mid lane, or sorry, Katarina in the mid lane, really strong. You need to be skilled at this champion. But we all know the absolute madness that Katarina can do in the game, right? We all know what she can do. Just a crazy 1 versus 9 games. She is the type of champion to do a 1 versus 9. The thing about Katarina is she's a little bit the same as Master Yi, but actually skilled. Because your team has to chunk down the enemies and you finish them off. That's the whole power of Katarina. You finish them off and then you finish off everyone. You finish off everyone with this champion. Because once you finish off one enemy, you're gonna get all your abilities back, you know, except your ultimate, but you're gonna get all your abilities back and you can just throw those daggers again and do the damage again. And it's insane damage. Next up is Diana. Diana mid lane, same story as the jungle, really. Very, very powerful. Like, absolutely powerful. And the beauty of Diana is as well, she actually counters a lot of the S plus tier champions. Diana is very good into these mage assassins, you know. If you're up against Akali, boom, Diana. If you're up against Katarina, boom, Diana. If you're up against Vex, boom, Diana. Diana counters all of them. If you're up against Orianna, believe it or not, Diana also kinda counters Orianna. So Diana just counters those types of champions. She counters the S plus tier champions. And besides that, against any other champions, she's just good. She's just good. She's really, really solid. There's like not much the enemies can do against a good Diana player. Because Diana is just gonna one-shot you in the late game. It's crazy. And in the earlier stages of the game, she's also powerful. She does so much damage. She's pretty tanky as well. Just she really has it all. And the next champion, guys. This is a champion that I keep talking about. I just keep talking about her, and there is a reason. Annie. S plus tier with a star, which means she's a little bit special as well. Because this champion is, in my opinion, the most broken mid lane. In my opinion. If I 100% shared my opinion, I would put her here. But like, I gotta be, you know, I gotta be honest here as well. Because like, I can't just have 100% of my opinion. You know, I'm looking at other people. They're having a lot of success on Akali and Katarina. I just suck at these champions. So of course, my opinion on those champions is not gonna be as much. But what I'm trying to say is every game is winnable with Annie. There are only a few champions that can properly deal with Annie. And like, Annie just, like, even if you're behind, you can still one-shot squishies. You can one-shot the enemy support if it's a squishy. You can one-shot the enemy ADC if it's a squishy. You can one-shot enemies. You can one-shot them. And she does it in such a beautiful way. And the more beautiful thing is, after you did the one-shot, she's not useless. She still has her abilities, like her first ability, her second ability, her third ability. You can still get those skills. And after you put down the bear, he will do sustain damage. Like, the sustain damage is also great. But like, the greatest thing, of course, is the one-shotting. So like, before you even enter a fight, you can use your proto belt or flash to get close to the enemy squishies. Put down your bear and kill that squishy easily. And also, you can put down the bear on multiple enemies. Like, you can stun 3 enemies at the same time and destroy all of them at the same time. Just everything you do with Annie, if you do it properly, it provides immense value. Immense value. Her ganking is amazing. She can shove waves very easily because every time you last hit a minion with your first ability, it reset, or it gives you back the mana and it reduces the cooldown by 50%. So you can push waves super fast. And her ganking is obviously insanely powerful. You can push the wave, you can gank with your ultimate, and boom, back. And her ultimate is also on a very low cooldown, so you can spam the hell out of that ultimate of her. So, like, what else am I supposed to say about this champion? She has everything. Yone in the mid lane is also really, really good. He can, you know, he can do well against squishies because his first ability has pretty good range, so he can do well. His second ability allows him to trade as well because it gives him a barrier and it does damage. And then, of course, his all-in is really, really good. If you're able to use that tornado and knock up the enemy, you're always going to be able to hit your ultimate. There is no dodging. Like, that's the thing with Yone. He has a combo where you use your third ability, use a tornado, and whenever you hit a tornado on one enemy or like multiple enemies, you will always guaranteed hit your ultimate because the enemies won't have time to dodge it. They won't even have time to QSS it. So as long as you're able to hit that tornado, you're going to be able to hit your ultimate very, very easily. Next up is Orianna. Orianna is pretty much always in my S plus tier list because she's just, you know, she can carry every game. Now she feels a little bit weaker than normal because those assassins can potentially deal with her. But like in the late stages of the game, even the assassins, like Orianna can just use her third ability to give herself a shield. She can flash away, use an ultimate just to stop those assassins. She can deal with assassins in the later stages of the game. So early game, she can just push waves. Her ganking is really not that strong. But again, with Orianna, it's all about the late game. All about late game damage per second carrying. And she does that like no one else does. Ahri, on the other hand, is a little bit like Annie, but without the burst. Like, Ahri can shove waves very easily. Ahri can gank very easily. Ahri can get kills early game very easily. Ahri can catch up enemies or catch out enemies very easily. That's like, you know, a little bit of the same as Annie, but she doesn't have the burst as, you know, as Annie does. That's the thing. The thing that Ahri does have is mobility, of course. You know, if you do get a kill, you can very easily run away, and Annie cannot do that. Like after you use your Protobot or Flash or something, you cannot run away anymore. So the thing about Ahri is after she does get a kill, she can actually run away, which is the beauty of Ahri. Khazrin, not as plus tier anymore, but still S tier. Like in the mid lane, he does really well because he can play more easily against those squishier types of champions. Because like the one thing that counters Khazrin is bruisers. So you know, if you're not up against a lot of bruisers, you can pick Khazrin in the mid lane and still do really, really well. He really does much less damage than before, though. You have to understand that he does like really, really less damage than before. It's crazy how different he feels. He feels so much weaker, but yet still strong enough to be worth it to be played in the mid lane. It's a little bit weird to say, but that's how broken Khazrin used to be. Let me just say it like that. He's still just good. Let's just say it like that. He's just good. He's good. Definitely worthy to pick. Zed as well. Really, really good. And with the changes to the ultimates, Zed actually became stronger in the late game. You know, the recent changes to the ultimate, where they reduced pretty much everyone's cooldown, ultimate cooldowns. So Zed can use his ultimate more often, right? Like, and that's the whole point of Zed. The ultimate, the assassination potential of Zed. He can gank with his ultimate. He can kill enemies in the late game with that ultimate. If he gets dived, he can kill the person that is diving in with his ultimate. Very high skilled champion, but very rewarding champion. Let's just say it like that. Very, very rewarding champion. If you fall behind, however, he becomes useless. That's the thing with Zed. If you fall behind, he becomes absolutely useless. And the best thing you can do when you fall behind is just split push. Like just split push and try to take turrets. That's the only thing you can do if you fall behind. He does take turrets unbelievably fast, by the way. I don't know why, but he really takes turrets too fast, in my opinion. A champion that doesn't take turrets fast is Yasuo. But he has other things that are very good, right? If your team has a lot of knockups, Yasuo can follow up with that ultimate of his and get that armor penetration. So you can even shred through those tanks. Like after Yasuo uses his ultimate, he becomes like God mode for 15 seconds. The damage is going to be crazy, especially in the late stages of the game. Because in the late game, everyone has a lot of armor. So, you know, that 30% armor penetration he gets is going to be very worthy. It's going to be very, very strong. And they also changed something else. You can actually go over the crit cap now, and it's going to give you bonus attack damage. So if you get bonus crit now, it's actually going to convert it into attack damage on Yasuo and Yone. So, you know, you can actually go for different kinds of builds now. You can go for Solari Charge Blade, Infinity Edge, and a Bloodthirster, for example, to get that vampirism too. So you can do different things on Yasuo now as well. And of course, let's not forget about the Wind Wall Yasuo has, right? Really, really strong in the later stages of the game, especially. Twisted Fate is great as well. You know, his ultimate is literally the best ganking ability in the game. No one is going to see it coming. Like, suddenly a Twisted Fate used his ultimate and boom, and there's a Twisted Fate behind you and you're going to die, right? He can stun you for 2 seconds and then you're, of course, you're left to fate whether you die or not. Literally, because it's Twisted Fate. Yes. And in the late game, he's really strong as well. He doesn't have any sustained damage, but in the late game, he does an insane amount of burst damage. And the cooldown of the burst damage is very low. So, like, he can spam the burst damage every time. Like, he can use his first ability every 3 seconds. He can use a card every 4 seconds or so. So, in the late game, you're going to do an insane amount of burst damage. And you're going to have big range because you go for rapid fire cannon. And you can use it all the time. Like, you can use it all the time. There is no long cooldown like Annie's ultimate, for example. Akshan in the mid lane is really powerful as well. And it's mainly because of that stupid passive of his. Like, you can kill off his entire team. As long as he gets to kill you, he's gonna revive everyone. That's the stupid thing about Akshan. He can bully the enemy mid laners very easily. Because of his range and his like the way that his attacks work, he can bully very easily. Because when he hits 3 attacks on the enemy, he does bonus magic damage. And he gets bonus movement speed. And he gets a barrier. So that way, he can very easily outtrade you. Even if you do damage to him, his barrier is actually gonna tank it. So that's the thing with Akshan. And Akshan now goes for Kraken Slayer as well, which contributes towards this damage trading as well. So Akshan is just incredibly powerful in the mid lane right now. And in the later stages of the game, the third ability becomes really strong as well. For you to escape, engage, or just to deal a crazy amount of damage. That like everything. Pyke mid lane is also really, really solid. Like, he just does so much damage in the mid lane. His ultimate is disgusting. And the thing about being mid lane compared to support is you're going to be stronger in the early game. Like, you're going to get your first items much faster. you're not reliant on getting kills. Like, you're not reliant 100% on getting kills, because you can actually just farm. Another thing is he's good at ganking. He can push wave, not that fast because he's melee, but he can push waves and use his second ability to gank very easily. Wards are not gonna see him because he's invisible, and he can just gank. He can just gank. Enemies are gonna know that he is coming around though, because they'll see the thing around them. But still, they won't know exactly where he is. So that's the thing about what is this champion called? Pyke. Yes. Echo mid lane, really, really good as well. He's not gonna struggle as much as in the jungle. He can farm freely in the mid lane. He won't get bullied in the mid lane because he can just spam his first ability to farm. It doesn't cost that much mana, and it has a long enough range to secure every minion that he wants to, right? Like, he can just secure whatever he wants to and play his lane safely if he has to. And of course, in the late game, do I even need to talk about him in the late game? His ultimate is on like a 16-second cooldown or something, and he can assassinate anyone. He does so much damage with his electrocute combo as well. His second ability gives him an insane barrier, and of course, let's not forget about that ultimate of his, which brings him back to full HP and does a crazy amount of damage to anyone that is within his ultimate. So, just this champion has it all in the late game as an assassin. Galio is a little bit of an anti-assassin. If you are up against an Echo or up against a Khazad, against an Akali, against a Diana, against a Katarina, you know, those types of champions, Evelyn even, you pick Galio and it counters it. It just counters it. They cannot do anything against you because Galio's kit is fully built to counter that kinds of stuff. So they go into you, but you just destroy them. They won't do anything to you. And I really don't recommend you to pick Galio otherwise. I only really recommend you to pick Galio if enemies have at least one of those champions. You know, one of the mage assassins. Next up is Gragas mid lane, and just like any other role, Gragas mid lane, it doesn't matter. I actually recommend you to play full AP Gragas in the mid lane. You can just poke any long range champion. Like, let's say you're up against Orianna or Annie. Just use your first ability in the lane to chunk them down, and you're all in, destroys them as well. You can flash combo your third ability too to surprise them. Use that ultimate to pull them back. And if you get ganked, you know, you get a free kill. It's just so easy. It's so easy. If your teammate ganks, you know, your lane, you can engage with your third ability and flash and ult the enemy back to your side. And they're always gonna die if you do that. And it's just such an easy combo. Next up is Veigar. Veigar is really powerful as well. Especially now, because they actually buffed Veigar's early game. They made his mana regeneration easier. Like, you get more mana regeneration. And they made his basic attacks do more damage in the early game, which you can actually feel quite well now. Like, you can bully the enemy as a Veigar more. Like, your basic attacks hurt more. You can push waves more easily. And of course, in the late game, it's game over with Veigar, right? As long as you don't get bursted down, you're gonna one-shot anyone. Like, you'll get to a stage of the game where you're gonna one-shot squishes with just your first ability and your ultimate. And you can combo your first ability with a flash. So you can use first ability flash, get close to the enemy, hit them, and ult them, and they won't even have a single chance to counter it. They're just gonna get one shot. So Veigar is an amazing champion. He's really, really good in the mid lane. Brand is a bit different. Not about one-shots, but about sustained damage. Not sustained damage, chunking down everyone, basically. Like, he has abilities that can do massive damage to everyone. That's the point of Brand. Doing massive damage to everyone. Especially tanks. If you're up against a lot of melee champions, and if a lot of them are tanks, that is the power of Brand. Because all his abilities, all his burning does percentage damage, right? Like percentage HP damage. The burn does 3% of their maximum health damage over time. And the explosion does like 20-25% damage in one time. Like, boom, it explodes. And if all the enemies are close to each other, all the explosions do AoE damage. So it does damage to all of them. So it's just crazy. Like, this champion is crazy. And his ultimate is a perfect ability as well. And if you get Stasis Enchant on this champion, you know, let's say all melee champions dive you. All you have to do is click on every single ability and Stasis. And let the magic work out itself. You're basically going to chunk down all 5 of the enemy champions to like 50% health. And then, of course, your team should be able to take care of the rest, right? Ziggs. I don't really like Ziggs too much now. But he's still good enough to be in the S tier. Like, basically, there are so many champions that counter the type of champion Ziggs is. You know, if you just look at the S+ tier. Vex, Akali, Irelia, Katarina, Annie, Yone, Diana, even Orianna. All these champions counter Ziggs. Actually, Orianna doesn't, but like all the other champions counter Ziggs. So that should show you why I am putting Ziggs in like S tier and not like, you know, in the bottom tier of the S tier and not anywhere higher. Besides that, he's still pretty good. Like his team fighting is really, really good. He does a lot of damage. His turret pushing is really good. But like as I said, there are so many counters to Ziggs right now. The game is not like it used to be. They brought out a lot of new champions, right? So that's the thing. And a lot of these new champions are very good into Ziggs. Karma in the mid lane is great. Lux is great. Anyone I want to talk about? Again, kill better than you think. Not amazing, but definitely better than you think. Want to talk about Seraphine as well? If you're up against a full melee enemy, you pick Seraphine. Let me just make that a rule of thumb for you guys. Keep this in your head. Is the enemy full melee, like, you know, they can have one ADC, let's say, but then full melee, you pick Seraphine and it should speak for itself. Seraphine destroys melee champions. She loves to play against melee champions because it's so easy to hit them. It's so unbelievably easy to hit them. And that's the whole point of Seraphine. She can very easily kill those melee champions. So keep that as a rule. Just do it once and you'll understand why. Next up is the Dragon lane. And I want to talk about Jhin immediately, but we gotta wait for the Jhin one, okay? We gotta wait. Okay, let's start with Samira. In my opinion, Samira is the strongest. And I'm really not seeing a lot of Samira for some reason, but whenever I play Samira, I just carry every game. It's crazy how broken this champion is. The ultimate is just disgusting. Disgusting. Like during a team fight, no one is able to tank up that ultimate. Whenever you use your ultimate, they either have to cancel it out or they have to run out of it. Like there's no way they can tank that ultimate of yours. So if you play it properly and hit your ultimate on a lot of enemies, you will destroy them. You will destroy them like no other ADC can destroy them. It's just, you wipe them out. I had a game where I got like 3 pentakills on Samira. I uploaded it on YouTube as well. There is no ADC that can do that. Like, there's no way an ADC can do that properly. So like this champion, in my opinion, is just absolutely giga broken in the Dragon lane. Next up is Vayne. Vayne is completely different, right? She's single target damage. The whole point of Vayne is chunking down tanks, but that's not the whole point of Vayne. It's not the only point of Vayne. Sure, she can destroy tanks. Vayne is a 1v1 queen. She wins 1v1s against pretty much any ADC in the game. I mean, even Kai'Sa, who is supposed to be like one of the strongest 1v1 champions in the game because the isolated damage, Vayne can actually win 1v1s against Kai'Sa. That should already tell you how stupid that is, right? Like, it's really, really stupid. Even if you're very behind in the game, Vayne is still gonna win the 1v1. Like, that's the crazy thing about Vayne. If she stuns you into a wall, especially, you're just dead. You're dead. You cannot stop it. You cannot stop a Vayne. She heals up a lot as well because of her second ability. She becomes invisible because of her ultimate. She gets bonus attack damage. She gets bonus movement speed. She does true damage. You can't do anything. You cannot build anything against this champion. You cannot do anything. You know, if a tank goes in, tanks try to buy time for their teams. Vayne doesn't give time. Vayne doesn't care about time. She's just gonna kill you like she kills anyone else. It's like a hot knife. She will slice through everything. She will slice through everything, whether it's a tank, a squishy, anything. Ezreal is a little bit different. With Ezreal, you actually have to, play it properly. Hit your poking. Like, if you're unable to hit that first ability on Ezreal, he's absolutely useless. But if you can reliably hit his first ability, he will do so much damage. Because not only can he poke down enemies and chunk them down, his sustain damage is amazing. So he has poke and sustain damage. You know, his basic attacks, first ability, ultimate, everything. Sustain damage, he really has it all. Like, and mobility as well. He has mobility too. So Ezreal, even if he gets caught, he can actually use his third ability to escape. And he can constantly poke enemies. You can't chase an Ezreal either, because he's just gonna build Cerulah's Grudge and constantly poke you with his first ability, which is gonna slow you, because Cerulah's Grudge slows you. So he just has so many tools at his disposal. His early game laning is weak, and that's where you have to abuse him, because if he gets to his later stages of the game, if he gets to his 2-3 item power spike, it's gonna be really rough for you to, to do something against this champion, because he's just gonna do so much damage. It's just really hard to trade with him. Lucian is a little bit different as well, because he's very mobile, and he, it's very hard for enemies to catch up to this champion as well, because he can constantly dash, especially with Navori's Quickblade. He did get indirectly nerfed, because Navori Quickblade became more expensive, but still, it's very, very powerful on Lucian still. His laning is not the strongest because he doesn't have a lot of range. So champions like Ashe, Caitlyn, Jinx, Senna can really bully him, even Jhin. But if we talk about Jhin in the late game, Lucian will absolutely demolish Jhin. Like later stages of the game, you have no chance against the Lucian. And even tanks are gonna struggle against Lucian because they just can't. They can't stop him. They can't get to him. Like let's say Garen, he tries to go on a Lucian, he can't. Also, Lucian goes for Kraken Slayer, so it's a good anti-tank thing. So Lucian just has it all as well. And the one thing he struggles against is long-range champions. As I said, if you're up against Caitlyn, if you're up against those longer-range champions, that is the one thing that could be annoying, even in the later stages of the game. Kai'Sa is really strong as well. They buffed Runan's Hurricane, which of course indirectly buffs Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is just very strong. Not the most amazing ADC, but just good. Like, just you can always pick her and she's always going to be good. Tristana as well, very, very powerful. The one weakness Tristana has is her early game, but once you reach the later stages of the game, the range she gets just makes her strong. Like, it's really all about the range that she gets because of her passive. And her ultimate allows you to push anyone away, of course. Her second ability allows you to be super aggressive, because whenever you get a kill or an assist, or whenever you get full charges on the third ability, which should be pretty easy in the later stages of the game, you can just jump again. So you have to use her mobility wisely, but it's of course not as mobile as Lucian or Ezreal. It's a little bit harder to use this mobility because it's slower. It's not an instant dash or an instant blink. It takes her time to jump from point A to point B. So it is counterable. It is more counterable than Lucian's dash or Ezreal's dash, right? Which is a blink or an instant dash. But still, late game, she does so much damage and her range. That's the beauty of this champion. Another champion that is very strong in the late game with a lot of range is Jinx. Early game, just like Tristana, early game Jinx is very weak. Perhaps even weaker than Tristana. Even mid game Jinx is weak. Jinx only starts to get strong after 3 items. Stormrazor, Infinity Edge, and Runan's Hurricane. And yes, Jinx got indirectly buffed as well. I actually made a Jinx video like a couple days ago because Runan's Hurricane. Because of the Runan's Hurricane buffs, Jinx rockets are going to do so much more damage in the later stages of the game now. And in the late game, Jinx can 1v9. It's crazy how much damage the rockets do. Especially if you have an Enchanter support with Ardent Sensor. Ooh, you're going to do so much damage. It's crazy. And not only the rockets, like the machine gun as well. The attack speed you get because of lethal tempo is crazy. Your machine gun will just destroy anyone who dives you. You can actually 1v1 melee champions, which not a lot of ADCs can do. Trust me, not a lot of ADCs can do that, but Jinx can. Caitlyn is a little bit of a weird one because she can bully in the early game. Her mid game is weak as hell, but then her late game, the only weakness she has is tanks. But besides tanks, she will destroy squishier champions. But like, I haven't put her any higher up because she just doesn't feel that strong to me. Like, as I said, in the late game, if the enemy has a Garen with Randuin's Omen, you're never gonna kill that Garen. Never. Any other ADC is gonna kill that Garen, but Caitlyn is just never ever gonna kill him. Varus, AD Varus is really weak right now. AP Varus is okay. He's just okay, so I've put him in the S tier. Xayah is good as well. Just pretty good. Pretty good, this champion. Her ultimate is pretty good, but she by no means she's like any stronger than, she's just not that strong. Ashe, I was overestimating Ashe a little bit, to be honest. She really doesn't feel that strong. Like, sure, Runan's Hurricane got buffed, but if you play like the conventional AD Ashe, it just doesn't feel that strong. Like, it's okay, don't get me wrong. If a champion is in S tier, it means the champion is strong. But like, I'm comparing it to the S plus tier champions, and no, hell no, they're not even comparable. Senna, you could play Senna with a tank, like Senna Gragas, Senna Nasus, Senna Garen, Senna anything, but it's good, but it's really not that good. Again, it's nice, you can bully the enemy laner, but besides that, meh. It's just a meh. Draven, if the enemy plays properly against the Draven, which is gank him, kill him, make him mad, if he doesn't get kills early game, Draven is going to be shut down and late game he becomes useless. Of course, if Draven does get kills in the early game, which he definitely can, because he wins every lane pretty much, that's when he becomes powerful, right? Like, when he gets ahead in gold, it's really hard to catch up to a Draven because he's going to roll over you in the game. Jhin got much stronger this patch, okay? But still, he's sitting on top of the A tier, not S tier. I gotta be honest about my boy Jhin. The thing about Jhin is, I've played so much Jhin this patch. Lord Dominic's Regard is the perfect item for him, but I believe it's bugged. Like, the passive doesn't actually do anything for Jhin. But just the mere fact that you can get crit and attack damage from a single item, crit and armor penetration from a single item, that's the beauty of Jhin. Like, now you can actually build a Guardian Angel and have 100% crit chance on Jhin. And have armor penetration. So, that's what makes him really, really good this patch. But again, like, no, he can't solo carry games. You actually need your team to engage and do something, right? Like, that's the thing about Jhin. If your team doesn't do any of that, you're gonna be screwed. You cannot do anything as a Jhin. Lux, you know, Karma, great, great. Anything else I want to talk about? I need to sneeze, but it's not coming. Misfortune really sucks. Like, she can work, but Misfortune in high Edo really is not that strong anymore. Let's see. Now on to the support list. And I changed a lot about this list as well. Nami feels like, I've actually put champions in the S+ tier now again, because these 3 champions to me feel very, very powerful. Nami, really good. Really, really strong. Like, the bubble is just very powerful. Now, if you hit a bubble, it's a free kill. The ultimate is a free kill in the later stages of the game. Second ability allows you to bully the enemy laner. She has big range. She has a buff on the third ability. And she gives movement speed to her team. What else do you need from a support? I mean, let's be honest. What else do you need from a support? It's just crazy. It's crazy everything she provides. Same with Karma. Thing about Karma is, though, it can get countered by Serpent Fang. But not that many people are building Serpent Fang. Like, the moment people start to build lots more Serpent Fang, that's when I'm gonna put Karma down to the S tier. But right now, people don't seem to understand you can just build Serpent Fang to counter barriers. But not only the barriers. Karma's first ability, Karma's ultimate. And the thing with Karma's ultimate is you can combo it with Meteor, and it does an insane amount of damage because the ultimate keeps the enemies in a circle. So you can use the ult and then Meteor on top, and it does, like, it chunks down enemies to like half HP, even though you're just a support. And of course, when you get kills, you get another Meteor, right? You get another Meteor, and it doesn't even do reduced damage. The Meteor does the same damage. It's crazy. So that's the beauty of Karma, the Meteor. Like, you can use Meteor with Karma and do crazy amounts of damage. Thresh support, really, really powerful as well. If you have a good Thresh who really knows how the champion works properly, constantly hitting those hooks, every hook is going to be a kill. Like, you hit a hook, you engage, third ability, ultimate, and you can use your lantern to get teammates close as well. Every time it's going to be a kill. Really, really powerful champion. And he's very tanky as well. He's very tanky. He passively gets armor whenever he picks up souls. So very tanky, and he does a lot of damage. That's the thing about Thresh as well. He does so much damage. He can actually 1v1 some squishy champions in the game as a support. Really, really powerful. And now let's talk about my S+ tier support, which is this girl right here. Sona support, guys. The most underrated champion in the game. And if you haven't played her yet, even after I uploaded my Sona videos showcasing that I have a 70% win rate on Sona in Challenger, then I don't get what you're doing. Pick this champion. I made 2 videos about Sona. I heavily, heavily recommend you to watch them. Heavily. Because basically, if you want to reach Challenger as a support, play Sona. Every game play Sona and you're gonna win. There is one champion that counters Sona hard, which is Annie. So whenever you want to play Sona, just ban out Annie and you've essentially eliminated your biggest counter and you can just carry the game. Play it like I teach you how to play it, because this champion is broken. And you know what? Screw what everyone thinks. I'm actually gonna put her in the S+ tier. Sona is S+ tier. No one thinks this, but I think this. And I know this, and I've proved this. That Sona is S+ tier. Absolutely broken as hell. Broken. Disgustingly broken. And I'm gonna keep telling you guys to pick her, because my goal is to make you guys rank up and make you guys better at the game. If you wanna do that, pick Sona. Boom. You don't need any more videos. Bye-bye. Alright. So next up is Pyke. Pyke is very powerful for the reason that you don't need a good team to win the game, because Pyke can carry the game himself. And you get lethality. Everything scales with lethality. So even in the later stages of the game, even though lethality is not good in the late game, for Pyke it is good in the late game. Pyke is not the best late game champion, keep that in mind, however, but he scales so brutally well with lethality that like if you're snowballing with Pyke, it snowballs exponentially harder than like a normal champion because you have lethality, which is good for snowballing, and he skills with lethality. So it's just everything. He gets everything from it. And the thing about Pyke is if you go electrocute, you hook the enemy, you use your third ability, you hit a basic attack, proc electrocute, and boom, ult. It's an easy kill with Pyke. It's crazy. And during team fights, every time an enemy gets to a low amount of HP, boom, you hit your ultimate. Not only can you kill off enemies very fast, you also get bonus gold for you and your team. So like, you're snowballing even harder. You're snowballing even harder with Pyke. He really has all the tools at his disposal to just absolutely snowball a game like crazy. And like, as I said, even if you reach the super late game, he's not useless like Draven or Lee Sin, right? He can still be useful. He's of course not that strong in the late game, but he's still useful because he has a hook. And of course that finisher, his ultimate, is still going to be very, very useful in the late game. Next up is Janna, one of the most underrated support champions in the game as well. Very, very powerful. The shield that she provides, the healing, the tornado, and her second ability. This is, in my opinion, the most disgusting ability that Janna has, because the slow and just the damage that it does, it's really, really good. It hurts the enemies like crazy. So, this champion is very, very powerful in the support pick as well, because she just has it all. She has it all. Yumi is a little bit different. You have to pick Yumi with like heavy attack speed champions now, right? So if you pick her with Jinx, it's good. Tristana, it's good. Ashe, it's good. Kill, it's good. Those types of champions Yumi works very, very well with. And she's not broken anymore because she cannot provide the broken healing anymore. The healing only works when you're in combat now, or when your teammate is farming minions. Like the healing procs now every time you're, the one that you're on top, basic attacks something. Doesn't work on turrets, by the way. So now it's balanced, but if played properly, it's still incredibly powerful. And Yumi does so much damage now with her first ability as well. It really, really does a lot of damage. And also, Imperial Mandate is the perfect item for Yumi, because every time you hit your first ability, Mandate gets procced as well, and it does so much damage. You know what? Rakan is actually weak. What is Rakan doing here? We're not going to talk about Rakan yet. We'll talk about him later. Lulu is also very, very powerful as a support. Just the buffs that she provides, incredibly powerful compared to like other enchanter supports as well. Just a very, very strong champion. Very strong support champion. Very, very good buffing. But the thing about Lulu is, and the reason why I've put her below a lot of other champions, you're really reliant on your team. Like, if your teammates don't actually utilize your buff very well, it's not going to do anything. You could say the same about Yumi, but Yumi's buff is stronger than Lulu's buff. So that's why Yumi is just a little bit above Lulu. Alistar, on the other hand, that's a bull on his own. This dude does whatever he wants. He doesn't even need his team, right? Like, this is a champion that can 1v1 ADCs in the late game. This is the best turret diving champion in the game, believe it or not, because he has his ultimate lasts for 7 seconds and basically makes him unkillable for those 7 seconds. So you can turret dive and keep turret diving like it's nothing and get those kills. You can push away enemy junglers when they try to secure objectives. You can be the tank you have to be for your team during team fights. Just a really good champion. Really, really good champion. If you get CC'd, you can use your ultimate and get out of that CC. You can get out of any CC, even if you get knocked up. Even if you get knocked up, believe it or not. It's like Olaf's ultimate. You instantly get out of CC. Same goes for Alistar's ultimate. Next up is Ashe support. Ashe support still works very well. Even though I'm not seeing it anymore, it still works unbelievably well, because you go for Mandate, you go for Manamune, Mandate, and all that stuff, and it still works like it used to work. It's not any weaker now. It's super powerful. You can use your ultimate all over the map and still get all the kills that you want. Soraka support, incredibly underrated as well. The healing is great, but like if the enemy knows how to play against it, they can dive you and kill you, and it's a little bit hard to deal with. But they don't, or if you position very, very well, Soraka support is very, very powerful. Very powerful. Nautilus support is a little bit different. In the support role, he's already strong in the earlier game compared to his jungle role. And his ultimate is very, very good. Like in the lane, it gives you free kills. In the later stage of the game as well, like you can ult an important target, basically force that target to use his stasis already, and your ultimate is going to be on a very low cooldown, on like 25 seconds or so. So that's the beauty of Alistar. What is this champion called? My brain sometimes doesn't work. I just said his name. Nautilus. That's the beauty of Nautilus. And he's very, very tanky in the late game. Every time he can use his second ability during a team fight, he can slow enemies with his third ability. He can hook enemies all the time. A very, very powerful champion. Rakan feels weak. I want to say that. Rakan feels weak this match. I don't know why, but he just feels weak to me. It's not like he's bad. He just feels way weaker than he used to be. Like, I remember when Rakan always used to be S+ tier, but maybe like indirect nerfs or anything like that, he just feels weaker. Perhaps because Imperial Mandate doesn't really fit Rakan that well. Like, sure, when he does his full engage, you know, you can proc the Imperial Mandate. But it's not like any other enchanter, you know. If you look at Karma, she can constantly proc Imperial Mandate. And if you look at Ashe, constant proc of Imperial Mandate. You know, look at Janna, constant proc of Imperial Mandate. Maybe that is why, but like, I don't know. He just really doesn't feel that strong to me right now. Lux, you know, Lux is okay, but they nerfed Lux. Her ultimate doesn't do as much damage anymore, and they actually took away 10% of the AP scaling of the ultimate. So she's still good, don't get me wrong, but not that good. Braum, you know what? Braum is actually way stronger than Rakan right now. Like, definitely here, Braum. Braum is good. Like, Braum is just good. I wouldn't quite put him on S tier, but he's definitely good. His shield is amazing. Like, that's the one big thing that he has. And of course, the stunning. Like, the stunning that Braum has. Every time he uses first ability or basic attacks an enemy, the stunning is really, really powerful that he has. Besides that, he really doesn't do that much, but like, those things are already very big for him. Nasus support, I only recommend you to play it with Senna, by the way. It's still incredibly powerful. And then besides that, Blitzcrank, you know, is good. If you hit the hook, of course, it's very good. Blitzcrank hard counters Yumi, by the way. Just a quick tip to you guys. Because if a Yumi goes on an ADC and you hook the ADC, you should be able to get 2 kills in one go. It's like 2 flies with 1 slap. That's what we say in the Netherlands. It's a saying. So you'll hook 2 champions in one go. I mean, 2 free kills, better than 1, right? So that's the thing with Blitzcrank. You can actually play Vex support, by the way. It works, believe me, it works. You can play Vex support. And any support, I only recommend when you're up against Sona. Whenever you see a Sona in the enemy team, pick any as the support and tell your teammates, trust me, and destroy the Sona. The whole game, all you're gonna do is you're gonna ult the Sona and one-shot the Sona. So Sona cannot do anything for her teammates anymore. So that is it for the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye-bye.